Okay, I am totally confused right now because the stream, the audio from the YouTube was blending in, and I pulled it down on the board. Now, here I am, first time this guy's been on my show, and I'm doing it completely wrong. I look like a complete amateur right now. So anyway, with me on the phone is Bryant Wolfin. He is running for Missouri State House of Representatives out of District 145. So we'll be talking to him pretty soon here. Again, not a good way, folks. It's not been a good week. To those who don't know, my father-in-law passed away on Wednesday morning at around 7:30. And it has not been, it's not been great, but things are starting to settle down. And so with that being said, we're going to plug along because we've got a lot of work to do. But if I'm not quite here, please forgive me. I did not, I've had this interview set up for a few weeks. I did not want to miss out because this is a new candidate and I want to get him on, give him plenty of time. Let everybody hear his message and let people make up their mind if they think he's the right candidate or not. It's not here for me to judge. But you get the you're picking up what I'm putting down, right? So let me start the recording, and then we will resume with the Freedom Talk. Okay.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we are back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report where, freedom lovers, liberty lovers come to unite on this podcast to talk about all things freedom and liberty and justice and everything right here in Missouri where we live, the state that we care about, the state that we want to set as the prime example for all other states as far as freedom goes, setting that example for others to follow. All right, folks, so this week I am joined by Mr. Bryant Wolfin. He's running out of District 145 here in the state of Missouri, House of Representatives. So I want everybody, again, those of you in the live stream, come up with some, give me some questions going, some of those things. I want to make sure that we cover all the bases. So he has the chance to, give us his side of things, how he sees, what the role of government should be, all those other things that we care so much about. So get those questions coming. I will get to them, get to as many of them as I can. But Bryant, Mr. Wolfin, how are you doing this evening, sir?
John, I'm doing fantastic. It's an honor to join you this evening. I appreciate the invite, and I'm hoping, I have all the right answers for you guys.
So I guess number one question is, what area is what District 145? We got people wanting to know what. So what cities that we know that are in District 145?
For sure. So District 145, it's ag country, baby. So we are St. John County and Perry County. Our two main city hubs would be St. Genevieve and Perryville. Currently, the seat is held by Rick Francis, who will be terming out after this term. So, we got an open seat here. And I think it's my wife and I had talked, and when the redistricting had happened and the realignment happened, I've been politically involved for a little bit now, and I've ran a campaign before. And so trying to get a more liberty-oriented, conservative in that office, I think is something that we felt like we couldn't really stand idle, because if we didn't step up to this challenge, we could maybe get another run-of-the-mill candidate that is just going to say yes, and say yes some more, and we don't want that. So that's a little bit of, I guess I went on a rant there. Sorry about that, but that's basically where the district's at. Perry County, St. John County, Perryville, St. Genevieve, and we got a small city of St. Mary in there as well. There's a tiny small city of Altenburg. A couple towns that could possibly be called villages at the same time, 300 people, but at the same time they got tons of historical value there. And we have business in one of those small towns, and we love it dearly. So we got the greatest district in Missouri.
Okay, well, I guess the next thing would be is to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, as far as your family, any detail you want to give on that, proper introduction, and then we'll get into the topics that we already have questions on.
For sure. So as you had stated before, my name's Bryant Wolfin. I am first and foremost, and most importantly, a father of three beautiful children. They're what keep our lives rolling. They're a part of why I'm doing this. And I'm also a very blessed, if my wife is listening, very blessed husband. And my wife, Megan, we've been married for over 10 years now, been together for over 12 years and still going strong. And, she lets me do this and puts up with it. So, what can I say? Super blessed there. Megan and I, we are small business owners. So we own a couple convenience stores in our local area in Southeast Missouri. So we own a gas station in St. Mary, which is in our district. And then we own another store in Fredericktown, Missouri, which isn't in our district, but, we've been there for 5 years. We've actually been business owners for over 7 years now. And, going strong there. That's a passion of mine, and we love what we do. And it gives us the flexibility to be able to pursue something like this. I am a mineral area college graduate. So I graduated with my just associates in business management back in, it seems like ages ago. I think 2011, 2012 in that area. I forget the exact year, unfortunately. And, I'm a lifelong Missourian as well. I was born and raised here. I was born in St. Genevieve, so in my district. Was raised half my life there, and then we moved away to St. Francis County for a little bit. And then my wife and I got together, we bought our first house, moved back to St. Genevieve, and have been in St. John County ever since. A little bit more about like my involvement, I guess, into the political side of things. I'm actually the St. Genevieve Republican Club treasurer. I'm the Republican Central Committee treasurer. I'm also the treasurer for the House District 145th Legislative Committee. This isn't so much politically involved, but I'm a local coach for a lot of different community leagues, mainly for my kids' sports teams and stuff. But, we've been able to meet a lot of good kids and a lot of parents from that. And then I've also been an alderman in the town of St. Genevieve. So I don't live in town anymore. I will admit municipal living wasn't really for us, as we found out. Too many rules and regulations, if you know what I'm saying. But when we lived there, we had an alderman seat that was coming open, similar to this situation, and I felt like we needed to hear an outsider's perspective, another voice. And I was just as much in favor of small government back then, and really cutting budget and trying to prevent tax increases, which had continuously happened in the city, about 5 years ago. So after that, I couldn't really sit idle anymore, and I needed to make sure that I got involved. So thankfully, no one ran against me, and was was very easy to get into that first seat, my first win, if you will, at the political campaign side of things. And, with that, I was able to delve into finally making some changes at the city, which we can get into later. I don't want to take all night on an introduction. So that's pretty much a little bit about me. I guess the main background anyway.
Okay, well, we've already got questions rolling in here. So I guess we'll go with the first. I'll just try to go in order here. So someone asked, did you hear about Senator Eigel's SB 100 bill, the gold and silver bill here in the state of Missouri? Did you know about that bill? Were you informed on that bill when it was going through session last year?
So I wasn't informed of it, but I had obviously paying attention to the governor's race and was able to sit on one of Eigel's Bill's speeches, and I had heard him talk about it. So as soon as I had heard him, talk about this bill, I did a little bit of research. Now I didn't read all the bill, but I got the summarization of it and got the gist of it. And I'm assuming you guys probably want to know where I stand on that bill, or at least on that situation in general.
Yeah, they want to know if you'd support something like that, of gold and silver here in the state of Missouri, of course.
Absolutely. So, I don't think it's any secret amongst, I would say, us liberty lovers that, the currency that we have nowadays is fiat currency. It's not backed by anything, which is a big concern. So, in my opinion, going back and reverting back to the original, I don't know if necessarily the original, because bartering's been around for as long as humans been around, but I guess in the form of just currency in general, gold, silver, any kind of currency that holds value, making sure that we can back our paper currency, if you will, with something is an absolute must. And getting rid of the gold standard, talking about federal politics here, was, in my opinion, a big mistake. And so if we could do something at the state level to bring back a gold standard or something along those lines, to be able to put hard value that's backing our fiat money right now. At that point, it wouldn't be fiat, but that's absolutely something I could support.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on the central bank digital currency? What do you think about the CBDCs that they're going to want to impose on everybody? What are your thoughts on that?
I have a problem with exactly like you said, of anything being imposed on anybody. So, look, I have no problem with digital currency in general, in the forms of like Bitcoin and things along those lines, but you cannot force folks to use that digital currency, which is where we have a problem. So I cannot support anything that imposes a digital currency on of the people of the nation or of our state. And I would hope, getting into the state level side of things, that we can do something to fight back against that government overreach of forcing that onto us.
All right. Well, the next question is, what do you believe the proper role of government is?
Love this question. And it's super short for me. The government's only role, in my opinion, which I think is fact, of course, is to protect our rights, nothing else.
Okay. That's pretty simple. I don't mind simple answers when it comes to things like that. This and you tell me, you be honest, whatever your answer to this is, but a big sticking point to a lot of my listeners are tax credits. Are you in favor of things like agricultural tax credits?
So here's where I stand on tax credits. Principally, absolutely not. I'm not. That's government picking winners and losers. Now, will I support tax credits? No. With that being said, so to any constituents in my district, if tax credits are out there available for our district, regardless of me supporting them, I will have the obligation of making sure to try my best to get the money to our district. That way, our taxpayers can get some of the money that they've paid in, and that's kind of my opinion. And honestly, that's a Ron Paul stance, because that was something that I weighed on when I first started getting involved in politics, of like what I would do on that situation. And after researching that, it's very similar to something that he said. You know, when the money's there, you have to give it back to your taxpayers in the best way you can. But in regards to supporting tax credits, new tax credits, absolutely not. We'll take, for an example, the entertainment industry tax credit that was passed, I guess, this time around. I would have been a hard no on that. That's, like I said, picking winners and losers. And quite frankly, I would rather see that kind of money just go back to the taxpayers.
Yeah, I feel the same. Again, that in this with the Missouri Freedom Initiative, it's this grassroots organization that I've been able to travel to Jeff City with, or meet in Jeff City and walk the halls of the Capitol. That's one of their big sticking points. It's fine for a tax cut or anything like that, but please stop picking your little special groups.
Yep.
And giving them a tax credit, and especially with inflation and everything the way it is now, and then basically peeing on everybody else.
Well, and if I can add one more thing to that, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The frustrating thing is it's basically what lobbyists are going to pay the most money to get those tax credits for their industry. And so it's just a rigged system. And if we want businesses, or to incentivize businesses to stay here or come to Missouri, then let's make this the tax haven, or the anti-tax haven of America, and then they will be forced to come here, which is what we're seeing in states like Tennessee and Florida. And so, yeah, that's just kind of my 2 cents on it.
Okay. So let me see. I got to scroll up here. What are your thoughts on the current Missouri budget? Because as you probably know, it's blown up exponentially in the last few years. What are your thoughts on the size and scope of the budget here in the state of Missouri?
How long is your podcast usually? I'm just kidding. I think it's a disgrace. I mean, let's look at how many of our representatives and state senators that we have that sent out all these mailers and had on their palm cards that they're this hard conservative or fiscal conservative or yada, 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 you name it, you see it. But yet we passed the biggest budget in the history of Missouri. The budget has doubled in a matter of 4 years? What is going on? We've got to get representatives in there that are introducing tax cuts. And, obviously leadership needs to attach onto that. So it's a joke to me. And I'll give you an example of this is going to be one of my main priorities if elected. So it was a big priority of mine when I was elected to the Board of Aldermen to tackle our budget. Now, the city budget's obviously much smaller than a state budget, and the state budget's going to require a lot of time. And honestly, if elected, it's going to take up most of my time, because I'm a business guy, I'm a fiscal guy or finance guy. It's kind of my expertise. And when I was on the Board of Aldermen, I went line by line, every single line of our city budget. And I was able to come up with, just reasonable cuts. Trust me, if I wanted to go to town, I could have went to town, but I only made cuts that I thought would get passed. And this was only $150,000 worth of cuts. And out of that $150,000, we barely got a third of those cut. And I'm talking, this is money the city hasn't used in years. And the city had already had up a surplus of to where we didn't need the extra money. And we just passed the property tax increase back then. So, I proposed these cuts. We got some of them done, but not all of them. And I expect to do something very similar at the state level if elected. I would love to be able to get on the committee, the budget committee. Dirk Deaton, who right now is the vice chair of the committee. I don't think he knows me yet, but I have a feeling that he and I will be best friends, because I'm going to be at his doorstep every single day trying to see what we can do to get some cuts done.
Outstanding. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So on initiative petition reform, it is a lot of our opinions that it is too easy to change the Missouri Constitution, and we don't want it ended up, looking like the yellow pages, being so heavy you can't carry it around except you got a bag with you. But we also know we need common sense reform, and not to where only the big money people get their things on the ballot, because they pretty much eliminated grassroots way of going around the legislature, or the legislature, because they refuse to do the right thing. So that gives us an outlet. But we do need some common sense reform. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so initiative petition reform has to happen, in my opinion. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have the answer. I have an idea. I don't know if it's going to be a good one, but I have an idea, and I can get to that here in just a second. But what I think needs to happen is we do need to make it harder to amend the Constitution. I mean, let's look at it. You're talking, 300 pages or so? It's almost already the yellow pages, in my opinion. And as we continue to add, Amendment 3 added another 40 pages, or another, how many ever pages to it. So if it continues, every single election cycle, we have some form of initiative petition that is an amendment to our Constitution. And look, the Constitution is the framework of our government. It's not a state statute book. Not to mention, our state statute book's already way too big. But if we're going to add statutes, we need to add them to that, not our Missouri Constitution. So I am in favor of making it relatively hard to amend the Constitution. But at the same time, I do think the people need to have a voice in being able to at least create state statutes. So, making sure that, the people have their voices heard. And so if we are putting state statutes and having that a simple majority vote, I'm fine with that. Then, and maybe having some sort of year gap that they can't be touched by the state legislature or something. Just something along those lines. Like I said, I don't have all the answers here. That's just kind of what makes sense to me. When you say common sense, that's what makes sense to me. So basically make it harder for the Constitution to be amended, and then still have the same level of where we're at for initiative petition for just state statutes, and kind of separate the two items.
All right, so somebody wants to know what your thoughts are on the personal property tax here in Missouri.
Abolish them. So personal property tax, in my opinion, is the most unjust tax that we have. There is no reason why you should pay for something and then have to pay yearly. We'll take what we've heard Bill Eigel say, yearly rent on those vehicles, or on anything. Or we'll even take businesses. We have to pay personal property tax on our computers. We have to pay personal property tax on our point of sale, personal property tax on our kitchen equipment. And it's crazy. I mean, does the government not have enough? And one of the big questions, when I'm going around, and by the way, this is picking up tons of support here recently, with a lot of tax increases continuously going up. But the biggest question that we have is what do you plan on doing with the lost revenue? And I think that's a valid question. So having a plan here and making sure that you give the municipalities an ample time to recoup some of that, I think is fair. But with that being said, if you ask any of these guys in a municipality, county government, state government, are you taxed too much? 90% of them are going to say yes. So the only way to stop that is to be able to cut spending. And so to cut spending, we got to start taking, in my opinion, sometimes you're going to have to force these government entity hands. So by doing that, we can abolish the property tax, give it a little bit of a time frame, make these municipalities and these counties that rely very heavily on this start to make the cuts, make the hard decisions. Probably going to have to raise sales tax a little bit. That's just a part of it. But at least the sales tax is a consumption tax, and it's a little bit more just than the property tax. So, that's my opinion on it. The most unjust tax we got, abolish it.
Yeah, because as I've stated many times on this show, we have a lot of reps and senators who like to say that they're pro farmer. They talk about they hear a lot about family farms. Family farms are dying off, but they're pro farmer, they're pro family farm, but yet if a vote comes up to eliminate personal property tax, it's an automatic no for them. And in my opinion, you cannot be pro family farm and pro personal property tax when you're being taxed on every head of livestock you own, all your farm equipment, your buildings. I don't know how you can be pro farmer and then yet incur these fees on a family farm year after year after year. I think it's a little hypocritical, and I believe that those people, need to correct their statements when they say that. And people in the crowd, the people in their districts, need to question them and say, hey, I know you said you're pro-farmer. Why do you support A, B, and C? And people got to, these reps and things we have to start calling them out on it. Because that's you're living in this split realm, and it's like, well, you can't have it both ways, buddy. Pick a side, and that's hard for a lot of politicians to do. I know I'm asking a lot.
Yeah, well, that's the sad thing, is you're not asking a lot, and it's crazy. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, you said it perfectly, and especially in our district. Our district is filled with family farms. The amount of thousands upon thousands of dollars that this would save these families, that really, think of what that could do for the economy. The more money that in the end that they could be keeping for themselves, they're going to in turn that to their customers. And in general, that could be the perfect fight against inflation and price increases that we've seen at a record level over the past 3 years. So yeah, I mean there's the big thing about a lot of politicians nowadays is they only see the short vision. They don't see the long vision. And that was something that I've learned, I guess, when reading. Oh my gosh, Brian, why am I drawing a blank on that? Shoot. It'll come to me in just a second. Economics in one lesson. Sorry. When reading economics in one lesson, that's kind of the main thing is, look, most of these politicians or most progressives, if you will, only see the short term. They don't see the long term. And so, yeah, that's something that we got to be looking and fighting for here in the Jefferson City.
Yeah. When you look at government and, on the federal side, sometimes you like to think, these people are just ignorant of a subject. They're ignorant of a topic. And in reality, they're not. But, they love to come up with legislation based on an intent. And they're not basing it on the actual outcome of that law. Now, that happens in the states. That happens on the local level, the county level. It happens all across government. But nothing's worse. Again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But if we as a society see a piece of legislation, we have to look at it and be able to see the actual outcome of that legislation and not the intent, because if you're looking at intent, you're basing your decision on emotion, and we know a lot of times people aren't good at making decisions based solely on emotion and not logic. So so there was an effort here this past legislative session to get the sales tax off of groceries, because that was something that, if applied, basically literally affects everyone in the state. Almost everyone has to go to the grocery store at some point. We can't all just have our own food all the time. We have to go to the store. What are your thoughts on something like eliminating the sales tax off groceries?
Yeah, so there's not a tax that I wouldn't cut for sure. That's gotta, in my opinion, if that's the only way that we can get a tax cut, then let's do it. Now, I will say, if there was given an ultimatum, hey, it's either property taxes or grocery taxes, I'm gonna go for the property taxes because, like I said earlier, I think that's the most unjust tax we can. But look, if it's looking like we can't get that done, then we need to go after the sales tax. Anything that we can do to decrease our tax burden on our citizens, sign me up. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, I would absolutely be in favor of cutting that.
Okay, here's a question. This is just my. I'm actually going to ask my own question. These guys have been really good about questions, but I'm going to ask my own dang question now. What do you think? Okay, so we have the Second Amendment Preservation Act here in Missouri, and I'll ask you your opinion on that. But what is your opinion also going into SEPA? What is your opinion on the some of the folks in law enforcement that don't like SEPA, that's saying it's hard for them to do their jobs or they can't do X, Y, and Z because of this, because of SEPA? So question one, what are your thoughts on SEPA? And question two, what do you have to say to law enforcement officials that aren't real thrilled with SEPA here in Missouri?
Absolutely. So actually, I ran a campaign in 2020, and we can get into that here in a little bit. But I did a survey and with the Missouri Firearms Coalition, and I promised that I would absolutely support, actually sponsor or co-sponsor SEPA. And if I would have been elected, I absolutely would have been. And that was the original. I'm talking about the original bill, the original way that it was written, not before it was kind of watered down a little bit to get some of the sheriffs on board. So yeah, I mean, Second Amendment Preservation Act, basically nullification of the federal government coming in and hindering our rights, or I guess taking our rights away. Sign me up. SEPA is one of the best piece of legislation that we have passed here in the most recent years in regards to protecting our Second Amendment, which is near and dear to me. And I don't want anybody coming in taking my guns. And so if we can get the federal government basically to make sure that our Missouri police force and officers are not helping the federal government, then I think that makes it much more difficult for our rights to be trampled on. So yeah, sign me up on that. Now, in regards, what was the second question one more time? I'm sorry.
Well, we have some, down around the Springfield area, of course, around the St. Louis area, Kansas City area. We've had law enforcement in a few sections of the state that are really upset that we passed it, stating that they can't do their job. Their officers are afraid to do certain things because they're afraid, basically, of losing their job if they take someone's guns or if they arrest them for certain things. I mean, what would you say to maybe a law enforcement officer who was unhappy with SEPA that and inferring that they can't do their jobs now because this law is on the books?
Yeah, so I'll be real honest, and maybe it's where I live in good rural country, but every deputy and officer that I've talked to has been in favor of SEPA. So I'll be real honest, I haven't had this question before. But, my concern is it's not so much whether or not law enforcement can do their job here. It's whether or not our rights are being protected. And so I would argue that if they're having a concern about losing their job over taking someone's guns away, then maybe what they're doing might be unconstitutional. Now, obviously, that's just a hypothetical, but that's just it's kind of what's coming off the top of my brain here. Like I said, never been asked that question before, so I hope that answer suffices, because all of our officers that I've talked to around here are absolutely in favor of SEPA.
Yeah, I mean, for the majority, they are. You've got, I think what it is, honestly, Brian, is that they enjoyed playing patty cake with the feds because if they do certain things, they get a cut of the money, and I think they were afraid of losing funding. And I think that's what upset them the most. And I'm sorry, but the less federal money that we're taking, I don't care if it's at the state capitol or if it's law enforcement or whatever. I figure that's better because that federal money comes with strings attached. You don't get that money free and clear. So I think it's a blessing if they can't do it.
Yeah, you literally just said what I was getting ready to say. So you took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, well, another question we've got here from the viewers here is, what's your take on civil asset forfeiture?
So I am not a fan of civil asset forfeiture. I think that the fact that the officers can take someone's stuff out of their car, regardless of if it was legally attained or not, without the proper, I guess, trial, it should be unconstitutional, and it's a trample on someone's rights. Now, granted, it's basically taking someone's right to trial away, and they're basically saying, hey, you can't have it back until after you're tried. So it should be the opposite way around, where they get to have it until, if it was obtained illegally or something along those lines, and then they're get a guilty charge, then maybe it could be taken away. But in regards, that's not how I understand it works. It's basically, if they're pulled over and they think it's illegal, it gets taken away regardless of a guilty verdict or not, or for the time being anyways.
Yeah, because I can't remember the wording now, but a lot of states went out and said, all right, we're not doing civil asset forfeiture now. But now the feds have come up with this, little roundabout on it, and I cannot remember what the exact terminology is. But the feds still can give the local, like a narcotics group or police department or whatever, up to 80% of whatever they take. And so we still have law enforcement, participating in the system because the feds found a workaround. They changed, they did the old word screw. And so, of course, a lot of law enforcement's like, oh, man, 80% of the proceeds, count us in. But I believe, and you can let me know your opinion on this too, but I believe that just incentivizes theft by some kind of, well, it doesn't matter what government agency is involved. That incentivizes theft. If they know they do this, and it may be unconstitutional, but they do it anyway because they can get 80% of the proceeds, you're incentivizing a group of government, employees to take things that don't belong to them, regardless. Like somebody said in the live stream, innocent until proven guilty is supposed to mean something, but now we're getting to guilty until proven innocent.
Yep. I mean, I hate to reiterate this again, but you literally said everything that I was going to say. So that's a big problem. Guilty and right now, I mean, when they take your stuff and you can't have it until after the trial, yeah, you're assumed guilty until proven innocent. And that's not how our founders believed that the system should work, and that eliminates essentially your right to trial. I mean, or at least it goes against that principle in some form or fashion. And yeah, as you said, the incentivization or the incentivize, when they're incentivized to take something, they're going to take it. 80% is a lot, and that adds up to, in some in like a St. Louis area, for instance, you're probably talking millions of dollars of funding. Of course, they're going to do it. And I know Tony Lavasco in the past has worked on this a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on civil asset forfeiture. Like I said, taxes and spending is probably where I would say my expertise is. But I know on the research that I have done on it, and kind of going off of what Mr. Lavasco has worked on in the past, I mean, I would love to be able to get something along those lines done and help them do it if we could.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your thoughts on things like ESG, the WEF, and so this is a long question, but just bear with me. So someone wants to know your thoughts on the ESG, the WEF, and are you concerned about, countries like China buying up a lot of Missouri farmland?
Yeah, so I know this is a hot button topic right now. And in regards to foreign entities buying Missouri farmland, I've weighed back and forth on this quite a bit over the last few months because in 2020, this really wasn't even an issue when I was running. So when I first kind of heard of it, I was like, well, it's time to start doing some research. And I think I land on the side of not selling, any more land to foreign entities for that exact reason. At that point, I guess it's a side of national defense. They're protecting our economy as well. And it's making sure that we don't join in as America or as a nation into this globalist, agenda like the WEF, which once again, I'm not an expert on. I know they have a chapter down in KEYK. Unfortunately, I didn't get to attend any of those meetings. But in regards to trying to keep them out of Missouri, sign me up. Anything that has to do with globalist first is not America first. And I think that's what we need to be looking for. We can't be trying to prop up, other nations' economies. We can't be trying to allow other nations to come in and dictate what we can and can't do, and yada yada yada. We need to stick to America, the United States of America only, and that America first policy or agenda is what we need to be pushing. And in Missouri first.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. I know you've covered a little bit of things about what things you'd like to do, but what are some things, let's say you get elected, and I know you talked about the budget and some other things, but what are some other things that you would like to personally try to get done here in Missouri as a legislator? What are some things that you would like to accomplish in your first term?
Look, I've been telling some people, or when I've been giving my speeches, I don't know if this is a word or not, but my main goal is to de-legislate. So if someone comes to me, John, it could be you, and you'd be like, you know what, Bryant, I think this law is bogus. And I look at it and I'm like, you know what, that has increased the role of government. De-legislating that subject is where I would like to really tackle. Now, like I said, the budget is going to be my main priority. Look, there might be a bunch of appropriation cuts that I try to file, but if someone comes to me and has something that we believe is a big government, then sign me up to try to file. I don't care I don't know if there's a limit on filing. I'd have to look into that, but I'll meet that limit and do what we got to do. One of the specifics. Look, we're in the convenience store industry, and I know this is a federal issue, and the state of Missouri tagged along with this being a federal issue. But in our industry, taking away the rights of adults and not giving them the choice to smoke and chew tobacco in our industry, and I know this might seem biased, but I think is one of the most egregious attacks on liberty that I've ever heard of in my lifetime of being in politics, which, I'm young, I'm only 33. But when the federal government came up with that law to basically make it illegal for 18-year-old adults to not be able to make their own decision and make their own choice, and then Missouri followed suit, I think it's about time for us doing very similar to what SAPA did and start nullifying laws like that. So that's just one example that if given the opportunity, I would like to tackle. But like I said, it could be any of your listeners call at my office and be like, hey, I think this is an obstruction or this is increasing government. Could you do something about it? Sign me up. But I listened to I won't say who, but I was able to attend a town hall recently with some local legislators. And I'm not going to lie, out of almost every single bill that was discussed that evening, they almost all expanded government in some form or fashion. And it's when they're up there praising these bills and claiming to be conservatives and things along those lines, then I'm not too sure they're in favor of small government. So yeah, that's kind of the goal. I can't say I have any specifics right now, but I'm going to have kind of like my own scorecard, if you will, when a piece of legislation touches my desk. Does this expand liberty? Does this hinder liberty? Does this increase the size of government, the role of government, or does this decrease the size of government or bring it back to its original role? And that's how I'm going to vote. So if it increases government, it's going to be no, regardless. I mean, I don't care what these lobbyists and scorecards say. That's where I'm going to land. And I actually did that on the board of aldermen in town, and that's why I know the Mr. No thing always goes around in the politics circle, but that's why I was known as Mr. No on that board.
Yeah, that I would take, somebody, if I was in government office and I kept being called Mr. No, I would definitely wear that like a badge of honor, because it would be like, yeah, you're dang right I'm Mr. No, because you guys, again, it must be nice to be government because they can spend all of your money, and if they need more, they just demand it from you, where we don't get that option. We don't have the option because that's called theft. And, so...
not to mention they do that with very little oversight, talking about spending.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Somebody said you mentioned you were a veteran, and they want to know what branch you served in.
Well, I don't recall mentioning that.
Okay. I didn't remember hearing. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I didn't remember either, and maybe they just misheard, which is fine. So someone wants to know what your thoughts are on like food freedom, raw cow milk, homemade pastries that you could sell without, all the licensing and regulation. What do you think about things like that?
Yeah, so I'm absolutely in favor of food freedom, I guess would be the way to. So the raw cow's milk that you brought up is a perfect example. So I remember this bill being brought up, I think in like 2020 maybe, or maybe it was 2019. What was it? Who was it? It was representative out of Jefferson County. I can't remember who it was. But it's also part of I won't get into that. But there was a raw cow's milk bill that was brought up. Sounded like a great bill to me, basically saying you could, these grocery retailers can sell raw milk in their stores, and I do not see why that's a problem. Now, granted, that it's a person's right to be able to make that choice. If I want to buy unregulated milk, I should be able to. If I want to buy, eggs from my neighbor, which by the way I do all the time, and I have my own eggs. But if I want to be able to buy unregulated any kind of food, I should be able to have that option. And if I, as a business owner, want to carry those options, I should be able to do so. It shouldn't be illegal for me to carry raw milk in my grocery store. That's going to be up to my customer, or if I was the customer, the consumer, to decide. If I don't like that big skim of fat on the top, then I'm not going to buy it. But maybe I got kids, maybe a newborn that needs some high fat content milk. Then I shouldn't have to go around the government to be able to find that. I should be able to go to my local Walmart or my local mom and pop grocery store, which we have a couple here in my district, and buy those things without breaking the law.
Amen to that, because I mean, let's be honest here, Bryant. Anybody with more than 2 brain cells to rub together should be able to understand that government clearly doesn't make the best choices in our favor, whether it's, our medical decisions, our financial decisions. They make awful decisions a lot of the time. And I do not understand the mentality that some people would have to say, well, I think government knows better than I do. Like, clearly you haven't been paying attention to the decisions that they've been making lately, because clearly they're not thinking very well. So I guess my question for you would be, are you a fan of nullification here in the state of Missouri? I mean, nullifying an unconstitutional law or an immoral law, is that something you believe that Missouri should be focusing more on doing?
100%. Yeah, actually, 200% yes. But state sovereignty needs to be a thing again. The budget of Missouri, what is it, 52% is federal money. What comes with that federal money? Like you said earlier, strings attached. State sovereignty at this point is pretty much gone, and the only way that we can garner that and get that back is through some sort of nullification process that, in my opinion, we set a precedent with SAPA. So why can't we do that with other items? Like I said earlier, why can't we let 18-year-olds make the choice? They're an adult. They can serve in our military. They can own a firearm, but yet they can't go out and buy a pack of Marlboros and make that decision for themselves. So, yeah, absolutely. We got to get state sovereignty back. It's time to make, I guess, the 10th Amendment great again.
Hey, I like that. I like that a lot. I'm trying to think. Oh, okay. Let me get your thoughts on this, because I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. What's your thoughts on? And this is a question I've thrown at a lot of conservatives running for office, and I always get many responses are the same, and I don't like to hear it, but that's their opinion, and they're entitled to it. But what are your thoughts on the war on drugs?
Yeah, so look, it's been a devastation specifically to the taxpayers and has showed very little results. So I'm probably going to get myself in trouble here by saying this, but I actually lean on the side of drug legalization. And let me explain. I want to explain myself on there. The reason being is because you have the right to do what you want. Protectionism is, takes away your choice. If you want to go in and do meth in your home, you should be allowed to do that. Now, would I condone though that act? Absolutely not. I've never. It's so funny because I've never been around. I don't know if I've even seen marijuana in person. But yet I'm fine with someone doing that in their personal space. Now, when you start getting out in public, you start driving impaired, we need to regulate that. But at the same time, if these drugs are legalized, there will be a market for them. There will be, maybe regulation to make sure that, you're not going to say this real often, but make sure that they're clean. And, really, who's going to sell, we'll just take the free market in general, who's going to sell bad drugs? If you're killing off your customers, that's not good business. So the thing about it to me is it's all about choice. And I know that's not a popular opinion amongst conservatives. I know that's not a popular opinion at all. I understand I'm in the minority here. But look, when I go out to these events, and I haven't asked this, but maybe next time I will, who amongst this crowd is going to go home and do meth tonight? None of them are going to raise their hand. It's not going to change. The people who are doing meth now are the same ones would probably do meth if it was legalized. And maybe it would be some sort of, we get rid of the opportunity of overdoses and things along those lines if they were legalized and regulated and clinics being set up. So the problem is this was turned into, a criminal situation when it comes to the war on drugs. You're making everybody criminals, those who may not deserve, so. And when really it's probably like a medical situation where we should be able to have medical care for these situations rather than, hey, your only medical care is going to jail. And then I guess I had one other thing I wanted to hit up on this topic, and I'm drawing a blank. It left my mind for some reason. So I'm sure I'll think about it as soon as we hang up today.
I don't like the fact, that we've turned something medical into a criminal. And the thing, again, a lot of minds have been changed lately with, medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, all those things. But we've ruined a lot of lives in this country. That people get a federal offense because they had too much marijuana in their possession. And a lot of people love to tout that they've given someone a second chance, but it's hard for people to get a second chance when they go to try to get employment and they have a felony on their record, and a lot of folks won't hire them. So what ends up happening is they continue on a criminal front because that's the only way they're making money, because we literally legislated them out of being able to come out and, quote unquote, reform themselves and go back to living as a law-abiding citizen. We've pretty much taken that away from them.
Yeah. I mean, let me give you I say a personal example, but it's not a personal example, but it is something that could happen. I guess a hypothetical that is very prominent in my industry with the convenience store industry. So, like, let's say someone gets hit with a felony on a non-violent drug offense. We, as convenience store owners that sell Missouri Lottery, essentially can't hire that person to run register, because you can't be a felon and sell you can't be a felon and sell lottery. So therefore, 40%, 50% of our customers buy lottery of some sort. That renders that person useless to our register. And, we're considered an entry-level job. So for someone who's trying to get back onto their feet by having the laws the way they are in this war on drugs, you've pretty much taken their livelihood away from them and make it very difficult at the same time. And like I said, I understand that's an unpopular opinion, but I'm not going to sit here and lie because if I did, then I would be like any other politician, and that's just not me.
All right, fair enough. So, okay, I don't know how much time you have, Brian, and I didn't go into, because I
got all night, man.
Okay, so in about 3 minutes, I have to clip for a radio station, and then we can continue on.
Okay.
But somebody wants to know about, like, there are farmers out there who, they buy Monsanto seeds, and they want to save them, and so they do what they call seed washing, but Monsanto will, basically take you to the cleaners and just litigate you out of existence. What do you think about, about entities like that seem to buy favors from government and then really kind of hurt the farmers, because instead of having to buy new seeds every year, they seed wash and reuse them? What do you think about that?
Well, I'll be real honest. I haven't heard that before. So could you elaborate just a little bit more when you say, are they buying the seed to try to buy it while it's cheaper, or what is the reasoning behind that?
So what they're doing is let's say they're going to, they buy seeds and they're going to have a big crop of corn. And so that year they plant those seeds, and there have been people around the country that have equipment so that you can take some seeds from that year's yield and run them through a machine and wash them, and then use those seeds next year. But Monsanto has got in and made it illegal. If they find out you're doing it, they have litigated farmers out of existence. I mean, they just break them inside the courtroom, and so they don't have the ability to do that. The next year they have to buy brand new seeds. I'm going to run this out for another minute and 20 seconds, Bryant, and we'll clip, and I'll let you answer because I've got a cut for KEYK. So
yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, that's what's going on with that. They literally cannot seed wash. They have to buy new seeds every year. All right, for those of you in the KEYK audience, thank you so much for joining me this week on the Missouri Liberty Report. Next week, I will be joined by Sam and Trish Britton from MOLibertyRadio.us. I also do a show called Off the Cuff, which you can find at MOLibertyRadio.us. And we will be talking about child trafficking. That's literally all we're going to be talking about next week, and everything that they've dug up, and they've covered this topic a lot. So I hope that you will tune in for that show, because I think it's something that we have to discuss. That it's a hot button issue right now, but we've got to get down. We've got to protect the kids, because when you're a freedom lover, you got to protect the kids. So look forward to that, and I'm also going to try to get in contact with, I can't remember who it is, but it's Gateway something. Jacob Turner is going to try to get me hooked up with a doctor who is also trying to protect kids from child trafficking, and try to get her on and discuss this topic more at length. But with that being said, folks, again, next week, Sam and Trish Britton. Hope you'll join me. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. All right, so again, Brian, we'll go back to the Monsanto issue. And let me because of that, I mean, you could feel free to go into the Monsanto thing, but I also want your opinion on these private-public partnerships that we're seeing, like what we saw during COVID, and billions of tax dollars going out for a vaccination or something to that effect. But so if you want to touch on the Monsanto thing, but let's get in a little bit to these this policy that government and corporations get into this friendly little deal. Corporations are helping to write new regulations that pretty much puts their competition out of business. But what do you have to say on the Monsanto thing, the seed washing, that you have to buy new seeds each year? Because I know that's touchy, because that is a business, and but I feel like there's also a private partnership built into that, and they've bought government favorability for their products.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm not super keen on this situation, but when it comes to just in general government and private, I guess, coming together, teaming up to try to, you just get into picking winners and losers again, and that's not something that I could support. So I mean, look, if Monsanto. And I know, especially being in ag country, I should know. I'm just actually kind of thrown for a loop here that I don't know about this situation at all, really. But look, we got to give the farmers should be able to have the choice that they can do what's best for them, and with that choice comes some responsibility, and I'm sure there's. Is the reasons that they're doing it for like health reasons, or I'm talking like the Monsanto side of things, or is it just to try to control the economy?
The reason the farmers are doing it, it's just a way to save money. I
understand that. I mean, on the other side of things, they should be.
I was going to say
they should be allowed to try to do the best that they can and save the money that they can. I'm in favor of the farmers here. I'm just, now that it's a new topic, now I'm turning the interview and I'm asking you questions.
Okay. Well, I'm not a supreme expert on this either, but I do know. I believe that after Desert Storm, Monsanto bought enough favorability so in areas of Iraq where they can farm, they were, especially I guess if the money was coming from our government, they were required to use Monsanto seeds. And they have been caught, I guess you go into some of these rural areas, maybe like where you live, Bryant, and the farmers have meetings, and they've been caught sneaking into meetings trying to figure out, what seeds they're buying, and they've been caught sneaking onto farmers' lands. They've also been able to, apparently I don't know, there's some kind of agreement where if you're using like GMO seeds from Monsanto, let's say your neighbor is using heirloom seeds, and your pollen or whatever from your seeds or what are your plants would go on to their property and mess with their crops, that's not Monsanto's problem, that's your problem. They've just gotten themselves a lot of favorability, and it seems like they've been able to insulate themselves a lot from liability, lawsuits, and the fact. I know they've lost some lawsuits on Roundup and things like that, but they seem to have bought themselves a lot of liability coverage and stuff from the feds and even in some states. So that's kind of what they're doing. They're doing it as they're trying to kind of run to be the only one in agriculture. If you're going to buy soybean seeds, if you're going to buy corn, seeds for corn, the two big crops that you see throughout the Midwest, they basically want it to be, Monsanto only, and they have helped regulate their competitors out of business with regulation. So that's where, from what I've been able to see, that's where Monsanto's coming out. It is not on health. It is, they just want, it's a way to ensure that the farmers have to keep buying seeds, basically. There's no ill health effects from it or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, so, and then I apologize to the listener that asked this question. And I promise I'll go in and do the research a little bit more on this now that I know this is a pressing issue, and I'll try to talk to some local farmers and see what the situation is there. But I mean, we're going to have to side with the farmers and making sure that they have the choice and positions to be able to do what they want. Anytime that you're forced to throw maybe excess seed away or seed that you can reuse to save money, once again, is also going to hurt the economy. To where it's obviously increasing the price of crops. And, it's kind of the classic example of governments basically forcing farmers to throw away crops all in the name of pricing and trying to control the pricing for the economy. And that seems to be similar to what's going on here, only in a private partnership. And I have a personal example that I'll get into with private partnership that's actually happening to our industry right now that I guess might better encapsulate where I stand on that issue. So, yeah, I mean, in regards to the Monsanto side of things, I'm going to side with the farmers every time, and being able to, get government out of the free market and making sure that they have the options and the availability to be able to save the money and have that choice in doing what's best for them, and not being forced to and coerced to buying, from one company and along those lines. And to touch up on like the government and private business working together. So we're going to use Philip Morris and RJ Reynolds here in our industry. They're doing everything they can to try to get these we call them fourth tier companies like Cheyenne and Excalibur, which are fourth-tier cigarette companies that have came into the market. You don't see them in other states, and it's because, in some other states anyways, like New York and California, I believe that these fourth-tier companies have all been pretty much forced out of the market because they are not a part of the master settlement agreement that took place, way back when. And so obviously you have Philip Morris and RJ Reynolds doing everything that they can to drive these smaller companies out. These smaller companies are doing their best to keep the prices low, and they're hammering them right now. RJ Reynolds is getting killed here in Missouri because fourth tiers came in and taken over. So especially here in the Southeast in my area. Now, towards the borders at St. Louis, they still run a little bit more rampant, but down in our areas, fourth tier is the king. And so right now we just had a situation to where Philip Morris came into our stores, and I think this is nationwide, came into our stores, and they've entered in an agreement with the Department of Justice, the DOJ, and by the way, our taxpayers are paying for this, that Philip Morris and RJ Reynolds came to the agreement that every single contracted customer of theirs, so a gas station, convenience store, grocery store, whatever, has to have these signs that basically say that nicotine is addicting. Look, let's be honest. Everybody knows that nicotine nowadays is addicting. They know that tobacco could kill you. It's cancerous. They understand that. Why are we spending probably tens of millions? I don't know the exact number, but if this is nationwide, probably tens of millions of dollars on these signs. These signs are like yard signs, they're corrugated signs. They're not cheap. And they're spending tens of millions of dollars of our money to force these signs into our stores that we all but have to use, because these big companies do kind of have our arms, mainly Philip Morris in this area, has our arms tied behind our back, because if we don't go on contract with them, we lose a lot of funding, and, we'll lose customers to the big guys like Walmart and Murphy USA and companies like that. So we're pretty much forced to buy, or to not buy, but accept these signs. And if we don't, we will be taken off contract, but all before, of course, we have to pay a substantial fee to Philip Morris and RJ Reynolds. And so basically what I'm getting at this is that the government is spending tens of millions of dollars forcing their way into our business for signs that no one's going to pay attention to, but the loophole is they're doing it through a private business. And in my opinion, that is disgusting, and it's an absolute overreach of government all when I guess they get away with it because they're running through a private partnership with the private business.
Well, I'll tell you this, Brian. I used to work several years ago. I worked at a local tobacco store here, and I remember telling my boss that I said, "Hey, we're going to get." They're trying to remove all the color from cigarette packages because I guess in Europe and other countries they do that. And she's like, "Nah," "No, they're not." And I was like, "Yes, they are." And then I don't know. It was 6 months later. She gets a thing in the mail at the store, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're right." And I said, "What are you talking about now?" She's like, "They won a lawsuit. It's based on freedom of speech, but they were trying to pull all the color off the packaging, and the courts sided for them as far as no, you're taking away freedom of speech, and you can't make them just make all the packaging and advertisements black and white. That's illegal." But then there was also some things because of the Fair Pricing Act or the Fair Act of some kind, that if, let's say, Philip Morris wanted to do a 3-pack deal on their cigarettes, you couldn't do it unless you did the same thing for R.J. Reynolds. And I'm like,
Yep.
They just legislated that, oh my God, how awful that we'd have to actually go out and compete and earn customers with our product. No, instead, we must use the government as our whipping tools to make sure that we have, an equal standing with this other big tobacco company. And I thought, what a bunch of babies. They literally have to get the government on their side to protect them instead of saying, hey, we got to make a better product than our competitors so people will continue to buy, whatever. It's cigarettes, chewing tobacco, whatever. God forbid we'd have to actually compete for our customers' money. And no, they use the government as a bully to, and of course the government gets in, they're the middleman and all these transactions, yada, yada, yada. And all they do is just drive the cost up on everything. And people need to come to an understanding that when government interjects itself into anything and where there's a transaction, it automatically raises the price. It never lowers the price. Even when you get into this, this drug, we're going to make insulin this much a month. That money's going to come from somewhere. It's going to come out in your taxes or whatever. Yeah, the people think they're getting their drugs at a lower cost. They're just paying for it somewhere else. It's just not being advertised in a big neon sign outside your house. They're getting their money. It's just a shell game that the government pays or the government plays, so these companies get, favoritism from the what do you call them? The criminals in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of people don't understand this, and to stay on the cigarette side of things, there's 2 reasons in Missouri why cigarettes are cheaper than they are in a majority of states, and we'll take Illinois as the perfect example. One is taxes. We have, the tobacco, the excise taxes on cigarettes is far less here. But the second thing is because they're the 4th tier cigarette market is here, and they are going to try over the next, when the master settlement agreement ends, and it'll need to be renewed. I guarantee you they're going to try to force these 4th tier companies into that agreement, and it will all but put them out of because you have to pay. They have to pay into it, and it'll all but put them out of business because it's technically an inferior product, but it's at an inferior price. So for that reason, they're going to try to make them join, and then at that point, it will put them out of business, and then all of a sudden, we're going to have $10 pack of Marlboros, just like Illinois does, for instance. Go to the borders here in Missouri that border Illinois. Those are the number 1 cigarette, tobacco in general, selling locations in the entire state, all along the Illinois border, all right there. Why? Because of taxes and because we have 4th tier. So I think that is a testament of, where we all know Illinois' policies, or well, maybe not by like the specifics, but we all know they're big government oriented. So making sure that we stay small government minded, small taxes, not increasing, the taxes and making the prices on everything higher, and people will still shop here and not go elsewhere.
All right. So someone wants to know if what are your thoughts on the illegal aliens coming into the state of Missouri? What do you see as a some kind of resolution to this situation? Because we know they're coming across the border in record amounts, and they're going to all these states. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I am. Look, when it comes to illegal aliens, look, at the beginning of the name, illegal is it. I mean, look, if they're not coming through the borders the proper way, then we need to deport them and try to get them to come back a better way. Look, I'm in favor of. I don't know the exact laws, the border laws, and coming here legally. I will admit, but making it a little bit easier for these folks that are obviously trying to flee their country, I would absolutely be in favor of. Now, I'm not saying open borders per se, because the welfare state is out of control, and we all know that there's fraud and people, illegals getting and those that aren't citizens getting welfare, and so we can't necessarily have that right now. But what we have to do is we could make the process easier, making visas easier, maybe giving out more, and allowing them to come here and try to make a life for themselves, and then hopefully from there they will become legal. But as long as they're an illegal alien, like I said, the illegal at the beginning says it all. We need to send them back home, and I know that's not the progressive thing to do, if you will, but look, they got to follow the laws just like the rest of us, and that's kind of where I stand on that.
All right, so somebody else got a question here, and it's a subject that I didn't think about, so thank you, Voodoo Queen. Somebody wants to know about, what do you think about growing hemp as a renewable source for like textiles, biodiesel, all that type of stuff? Would you be in favor of, because I know right now you have to, for most people to grow hemp, they have to have this, I think they used to have this license. You have to be almost like an industrial farm to be able to grow it. That may be done and over with, but would you like to see Missouri move to, instead of just being corn and soybeans, moving to something like hemp and making it easier for farmers to grow hemp because of its, thousands of uses?
Yeah, hemp is the next big thing, I guess, right? So it's time to, pave the way, get the regulations out. It's time to allow, mom and pop to start growing and give the small farmer a chance. This is a new industry that's coming up. And of course, big farmers or big corporations are going to try to get their hand on it and try to, beat all the small mom and pops to it. So we need to start looking at, and I don't know specific legislation if there's any coming up, but making sure that we deregulate that industry to pave the way for new business owners or new farmers or mom and pop farmers or anything along those lines, to give them a chance now before the big companies come in and try to take everything. I'm trying to take it over the industry.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to see it. We know there's, and, you would think that people in the environmental, the environmentalist movements would get behind this, because they're worried about trees. They're worried about this. It's like, well, you could make biodiesel from it. You can, the amount of hemp that you need to make paper is way less than, trees, and then hemp grows back much faster than trees. And the clothing, rope, hempcrete. There's so much you can do with hemp. And to me, personally, it's a no-brainer. I think that you shouldn't even have to think that hard about, oh yeah, maybe we should, maybe we should just do this and not to make it to where only the big the big agricultural outfits can grow it, and if Farmer Brown down the road wants to grow, hundreds of acres of hemp, then and probably make some really good money because, the other thing with corn, I get it, it's subsidized. But what did the corn subsidies do? They increased the price of food and fuel and everything else because the government sat there and subsidized corn. And I'm fine with them just saying, you know what, if you want to grow hemp, and then no subsidies, just do it. And I think if we could be a leader in that, we could probably have several or, a lot of successful small family farms because they're not just tied to the two main crop staples of soybeans and corn.
Yeah, I mean, we have a blessing, the natural resource of the soil we have here in Missouri. So let's take advantage of it. Let's get out ahead of this thing, and let's be the industry leader. Like, let's not be scared of the name hemp. Let's be the industry leader here and create, this industry and be on the forefront of it. And, hopefully if that continues to progress and become a big thing for this state, then heaven, hopefully the floodgates would open up and maybe our legislators would be in favor of giving us some tax breaks as some more money coming in other forms.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Brian, is there anything else that you would like to discuss before we end the show?
Yeah, there actually is one thing that
okay.
I did want to bring up, and it's something I think not a lot of people are going to be outwardly about. But look, man, I am, or at least viable candidates anyways, I am absolutely anti-establishment. And going to Jeff City, one of the reasons why, or I don't think I ever explained the reason why I was running. The reason I'm running, there's two main reasons. There's many, many reasons, but the two main reasons is this. I got into politics to kind of be a rebel rouser against the establishment, to try to fight back, because I've seen some really good candidates get basically steamrolled over by the establishment. And where the money comes from and how easy it is for establishment candidates to get the money rolled in from PACs and lobbyists and yada yada yada, you name it. And I've seen principled good candidates just get tossed to the side. And so that was kind of when I started getting involved, when I started seeing the effects of Jefferson City essentially making their way to local politics. And so that was the reason why I got involved, and that's still big to me why I'm here. But this campaign, this time around, I want to be a champion for liberty. I want to be able to spread the message that I'm not hearing in Jefferson City. Now, I know there are liberty-minded representatives in Jefferson City, in the House, and in the Senate. I absolutely understand that. But I've heard, I think I have a good way of portraying my message, of portraying the message of liberty, portraying the ideas of small government. And, I have a pretty good capability, I think, of relaying that message to everyday voters and everyday listeners. So I feel like, getting in there and trying to, I guess, preach the message of liberty in a sense of, what we hear, Rand Paul talk about and what we hear Thomas Massey talk about and what Ron Paul's done and things along those lines that we just don't hear enough in politics in general. So that's kind of my main goal this time around is be that champion for liberty that we're not hearing. And if I can't win, maybe I've turned some people onto the liberty movement, and that would be a success in my mind. But obviously getting to Jefferson City and hopefully being able to, cut through the nastiness and the swamp of Jeff City and maybe shed some light on some of these representatives that just need a good communicator that can relay the message to them and maybe try to get a coalition together and maybe fight against some establishment. So that's I wanted to get that across. I feel like that's important, and I truly feel like that I'm a different candidate, and I have a track record to prove that. Like I said, when I was on the board of aldermen, I wasn't scared to stand up to the mayor. I wasn't scared to stand up to the other aldermen. I wasn't scared to take the heat from the staff, when we were talking about raises and I wasn't in favor of them. Like that the pressure of that, it doesn't matter to me, because the only pressure that does matter to me is making sure that we do the right thing, and the right thing is bringing freedom back, reining in the government so that we can expand our liberty and be as free as we can as a society, because the free society is the best society. And yeah, I know I can keep on going on and on, but I think that's an important thing for me to spread, and that's going to differentiate me from a majority of the candidates, in my opinion, anyways.
All right. Well, because you brought up, the establishment, as somebody who's kind of worked with the Missouri Freedom Initiative and gone up to push legislation like SB 100, the Gold and Silver Bill, leadership in the House, they're not much for good, liberty-minded bills. Plucker and Patterson and some of these guys, we've watched them. I personally watched them trash SB 100. Not them personally. I got to listen for an hour and a half of Democrats saying some of the dumbest things that I've ever heard in my life as far as gold and silver goes. But they are a thorn in our side continuously. And, as a newly elected, let's say you win your election and you go in next year and you go into session, your first term, because we've watched some leadership hand god-awful bills off to somebody like a freshman and say, here, we know they did it. Here, introduce this legislation. And it's supposed to be a rep that got, voted in because he was the most liberty-oriented. But yet leadership is saying it was a bill on CBDC here. And, and the guy did. I don't think he knew even what he was doing. What would you do in a situation like that if someone in leadership brought you a bill and said, hey, would you put your name on this and file this bill? What would you do in that situation?
If it expands the role of government or is a burden to liberty, then I'm just going to have to turn them away. And look, I try to be. I'm a nice guy. I work in customer service. I'm super calm. I'm super collected, and there is not a person, whether I disagree with them or not, that I hate. There's always, a way that we can agree to disagree and then keep on working on. And I don't think that happens enough in Jefferson City. I think in Jefferson City, it's pretty much high school drama from my understanding, and as I'm learning over the last few years that I've been involved here. But look, I have my principles, and that's what I'm going to Jefferson City to do, is to preach my principles and hopefully, turn some heads. If leadership comes to me and says, hey, Bryant, I want you to put your name on this bill and I'll give you a committee seat. That's not a good enough, I guess, I can't think of the word for this, but it's not a good enough barter. It's not a good enough trade, if you will, for me. The only way that I'm going to support something is if it decreases the role of government, it decreases spending or cuts spending, or it enhances or increases our liberty. Is the only way that I can support something or vote on something. So, look, I'm real honest. I already expect to go to Jefferson City, and I've been told by many people I should probably shut my mouth when I come on the podcast or I'm talking, and I'm going to be doing some videos coming up for our campaign and stuff. But I wholeheartedly expect to be put into the armpit offices of Jefferson City. There's no doubt, I'm sure, that I will be put in with the offices by the Democrats. I'm going to get a desk probably set over right by the Democrats. I know how it is. See, I've heard stories. So I fully expect that to happen. I understand it. Look, in 2020, I ran against an incumbent. And he and I actually, once again, he and I have a really good relationship. We don't agree on very many things at all, but he's a nice guy. I feel like I'm a nice guy. And at the end of our election, we came together and had a good conversation. And he and I see each other out. We have a good talk. But at the same time, I hope we can see more of that in Jefferson City. And I know that's a naive way to look at things, and I am probably gonna get to Jefferson City and drink the Kool-Aid. I'm sorry, that's not what I want to say. Drink water from the fire hose, and I'm just gonna be shocked by how bad it is. I'm sure it's way worse than I even imagined. But at the same time, that's the plan, is to get in there and look, do my thing. If that gets me put in timeout, then it gets me put in timeout. And I'm going to come back to my district, or I'll be more than happy to come on here, and I'll tell you guys all about what's going on, because that's what the people need to hear, is what's going on and why it's happening. Not me coming in and bragging, hey, look, we expanded the role of government more. Hey, we didn't decrease your taxes again, or hey, we expanded spending or increased spending. That's usually when I hear representatives around here speak. That's what I hear them say. I want to come and speak, be like, man, you're never going to believe the kind of bull crap that's going on in Jefferson City. Here's the scoop.
Okay, well, I guess before we go, Bryant, do you have a website where people can go and find out more about you?
So right now my website is it's not done yet. It's on our next to-do list. We've been prioritizing some other things right now, but we will have a website probably here within the next 3 weeks, and it's going to be wolfinformissouri.com. People can also find me on Facebook, Bryant Wolfin for State Representative. Right now, it's kind of where I do most of my posting. I do have a Twitter. I think it's Bryant T. Wolfin, I believe.
Yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, Bryant T. Wolfin,
Yep.
and that's my main Twitter. So I just run through that. But for the most part, I think if people want to for sure see where I'm at on positions and see the most up-to-date stuff on my campaign, Facebook's where it's at. So Bryant Wolfin for State Representative. And then for anybody who's wants to email me, my contact information or my contact email is Bryant@wolfinformissouri.com. That's Bryant@wolfinformissouri.com. And, I'm open to any questions. Look, I understand, it's politics. No one's going to understand with everybody or agree with everybody 100% of the time. You have your ideas. I have my ideas. But that doesn't mean we don't agree 90% of the time, and that we can't, have this coalition of liberty fighters that, you're spearheading. And, man, I would love to get the opportunity to work with you guys in Jefferson City and see what we can try to actually make a difference.
Now, is Missouri going to be spelled out, or is this going to be M-O?
Everything is spelled out.
Okay.
I like long emails and long web addresses, I guess.
All right. Well, Bryant, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate all the time you've given me tonight. And, if you want to come back on here as your campaign goes on, just hit me up. I'll make a spot for you on a Friday night, and we can discuss how things are going. Maybe you've got some other things that you want to talk about. So feel free to contact me, and you got an open door policy. You can come back on, and I'll make a spot for you, brother. But I appreciate your time, and best of luck to you in the campaign.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Look, if you're ever needing a guest and it's last second, someone cancels or whatever, feel free to call me, man. This is a lot of fun. I need to get on these platforms and I guess get better at speaking, if you will, because I understand I'm not the best speaker in the world. But, I appreciate you still doing this, especially with the loss in your family, which I'm sorry to hear about. I appreciate you still sitting with me and being able to let me get my message out to your supporters. And, I hope I did some justice to your platform here, and I hope your listeners liked what they had to hear. And if they don't, then feel free to reach out to me and hammer me hard. So, John, I appreciate it again. So sorry for your family's loss, and I look forward to talking to you in the near future.
All right. Well, thanks again, Bryant. And again, best of luck. I really enjoyed our talk tonight, and I think you did a good job talking. I mean, I don't like it when if I interview somebody and they have short, concise answers, because it makes me think somebody gave them the answers. And I don't even give out the questions, but you normally expect certain questions, and I try to throw out some different stuff that maybe they don't hear all the time if they're being interviewed on the radio or whatever. But again, Bryant, good luck to you. thanks again so much for coming on with me, and I hope to talk to you again real soon, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
You too.
All right, everybody. That was Bryant Wolfin. Again, if you go into the comments section in the chat here, you will find his email address. Where did it go? Oh, Bryant. So that's Bryant at Wolfin, WOLFIN 4 Missouri.com. So Bryant at Wolfin 4 Missouri.com. Again, I like what I heard, so we'll go with that. Okay. Now I want to bring something up real quick. Everybody thought I was just gonna end the show, right? Not quite yet, because I stopped by a local store. I went out and did a little bit of photography today because I just had to get out. I had to get out and do something that I liked, and because I just been sitting around the house, and when I just sit around, I get tired, and I want to take naps all the time, and I'm not. That's not me. I'm not the world's hardest worker, but just sitting around all the time drives me nuts, right? So I was talking to a guy at a store because I had to get a new cigarette-looking thing for my hemp flower anyway. I was talking to a guy in there, and I brought up, do a podcast, and we were talking about Amendment 3. He didn't like it either, and he said, here's something he mentioned to me, and this is not the first time I've heard this. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to care about this, whatever, but I'm saying it anyway, okay, because I think it's something we need to talk about, because I think people that were wholeheartedly for Amendment 3 need to come to their senses, and I think a lot of them may regret their decision, because I heard the cannabis that you get at dispensaries is awful, what they would call ditchweed. And this gentleman said he was buying the wax at the dispensary, and he got sick, like just continuous vomiting, stomach cramps out of this world, all this stuff. And he went to the ER, and they told him he had cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, which they said basically he had ingested enough, cannabis that his body was producing an allergic reaction. But if he just went and got it from a person in general, he doesn't have that issue. And at the hospital, he said they told him they were seeing a lot of cases of this. So if this is true, and if anybody out there knows anything about this, please let me know, because I'm very curious. I'm going to have to do, I heard about it. It was too late for me. I had a guest. I didn't have time to really sit down and look at it, because I know that there's going to be anti-cannabis people out there who are going to blow this up. You got to really look, to make sure that that this isn't some overhyped thing because they're trying to get people to not smoke weed, right? And I don't want to put out numbers that have been falsified or information that has been twisted because they don't, the anti-cannabis people out there. But if there is going on what, he's saying is going on, is we're getting, crap weed, then what's in it? Are they spraying it with something and it's sitting on the bud, and then you're inhaling it, and it's causing you to have causing people to have these symptoms? That's a problem. But this is why I used to say, and I still say, when they were, looking at medical and recreational, I always say legalization without regulation. Now people are going to be like, oh, it's regulated right now. If this is actually happening, if this is a true thing, if this is a real thing that's going on, then I don't know. What good is the regulation doing? It's legalized, it's regulated. What good is that doing now? People are getting sick from the products that they buy at the legal place to buy it. This is what drives me nuts about this stuff, folks, right? This is what drives me absolutely insane, is that they're regulating it, and we're still getting this. And what they're doing is they're driving people to the black market. I hear people, there are people who are caretakers, of someone with maybe a fatal illness, fatal disease like cancer, or somebody's got neurological diseases, or what, they're caretaking for them. And because of what happened here in a lot of areas across Missouri is, Missouri's got a 6% sales tax on it. The county might impose 3%. The city might impose 3%. And on top of the already, whatever sales tax, like Herman has 9%. You're talking 21% tax rate on marijuana, on recreational, right? Who wants to pay a 21% sales tax on recreational marijuana when they can go to the so-called black market and get it way cheaper? So they're literally driving people to the black market. And then you know what they're going to do? They're going to start crying and complaining because people are doing that. And they're causing the very situation that they said, I guess they thought, again, all based on intent, that this wouldn't happen. And they're doing exactly and this is what's wrong with government. This is why I said legalization without regulation. Because of this type of thing is happening. And trying to get people to understand that is like, I could just talk to that door and get more reasoning and logic out of that door to this office than I could out of some of these people with cannabis. And so again, if this is true, I'm going to dig into this. I'm going to see what I can find. But yeah, the Amendment 3 was clearly, as Casey said, Amendment 3 was clearly written for the big companies, and they're going to regulate the small guys out. That's what they're going to do. All right, folks. So I just wanted to end with that. A lot of people, some people are like, I don't care. I do, because this is what happens when people vote on shoddy constitutional amendments. You may be getting a crap product, but it's perfectly legal because the state told you they needed to regulate it. Because big money interests got involved. And you damn sure better learn your lessons. If people out there that supported it better start learning their lesson. Because I'm a little sick and tired of having to preach this message because you all don't get it. So for the love of God, use that big, hunk of cholesterol that sits amidst your skull and put it to use. So, with that being said, all right, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, next week, Sam and Trish Britton from Missouri Liberty Radio will be joining me to talk about child trafficking and some of the information, or a lot of the information, hopefully, that they've dug up. And we're going to delve deep into this topic because I find it to be, really important, to say the least. So make sure you join me next Friday night because I think it's going to be one hell of a show, okay? Because I think they're going to bring up some groups that some of you will be shocked to know that are involved in child trafficking. Okay, with that being said, also don't forget to check out molibertyradio.us, especially on Sunday nights from 6 to 9%, good Lord, 6 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Off the Cuff Radio. Sam and Trish Britton. Also, don't forget to check out keyradio.live or keygatheringplace.com. Check out KEYK. That's KEYK's out of the Lake of the Ozarks. That's their website or websites where you can stream their services as well. Also, don't forget to go to mofree.org. Check out and get on the email list and join in on the live stream on Saturday night starting at 7:30 p.m. on Odyssey. I believe Patrick said they will soon more than likely be moving to Rumble as well. With that being said, now I remember. I was supposed to remember this at the beginning of the show. It's been a hell of a week, folks. I will be officially moving to Rumble on October the 6th. Let me look at my calendar and make sure that is correct. Okay. That is not the right app, you idiot. Ta-da. Yes, October 6th. This is the first Friday of October, as you probably could tell from the date. I will be officially moving the live stream to Rumble because YouTube is driving me absolutely bat, crazy. So I'll go to Rumble, and hopefully not have to worry about any type of censorship and, yada, yada, on and on. So, yes, I'm going to take a hit in my views and everything else, but hey, that's just the way it goes, right? That's just the way it goes. I'm tired of YouTube, and so I want to give plenty of notice. I got to remember every week to put that in, that I will be moving to Rumble. My channel's already there. I did an announcement video over there. You can find Missouri Liberty Report on Rumble. If you would be so kind to go over there and subscribe to that channel, that would be awesome. I would greatly appreciate that. And also, before I go, don't forget to check out Catherine Dreyer and Kirby Lane's excellent podcast, Rogue Politics. They're following the money. They're pulling the thread, and they're following the money. They're following the funny money and the funny business behind a lot of our politicians and some of these PACs and other groups that funds the politicians here in the state of Missouri. So don't forget to check them out as well. They've got really great content. We got a lot of great people here in Missouri doing a lot of great things. Sam and Trish, Patrick and his group, Catherine and Kirby, and we may have others coming. Kirby Lane messaged me the other day about another woman who's thinking about doing a podcast. I've got to call her. She was supposed to call me. She never did. I'm going to have to try and call her and see if she was looking for some guidance maybe to start a podcast. So we may be getting another one to let you know about, and who knows what she'll be covering. I'm sure it may be Missouri issues. It might be federal. It might be all-encompassing podcast. But for those people in Missouri who are doing great things with podcasting and radio, we got to let people know about them so the message of liberty can be heard loud and clear. All right, folks, with that being said, that's going to do it for this week. Thanks so much for joining me once again. I appreciate everyone in here. Wilderness Gal, Voodoo Queen, Casey Rich, Gary Ride, John Doe. Anybody I missed? I think that was it for right now. If I missed anybody, I apologize. But I appreciate each and every one. Oh, Catherine Dreyer, of course, she was in here. She was asking a lot of questions in the beginning. How dare I forget her? Anyway, with that being said, folks, thanks so much, and we'll see you all next Friday right here on the Missouri Liberty Report.
Want more freedom? It starts with you. Join us next week on the Missouri Liberty Report and find out how you can get involved to take back your state.
All right, thanks again, everybody. How was my volume this week? Was it better? Because I reset my board to factory settings, and so is my volume better than it was last Saturday in the live stream? I've got to know, because I reset the board. I went to a different channel on the board. I changed microphones because I thought the other one was getting weak on me. So just I didn't want to ask that in the middle of a podcast, but how was my volume? It was great. Okay, good deal. So I guess I got that situation resolved. Volume was good. Awesome. Thank you guys for letting me know. I could tell a difference, but yeah, I did some fine tuning, and I think I had to change something in Windows too. I think Windows was trying to tell it to go to the webcam up top. I think that was my volume problem a lot. Okay. Well, guys, thanks again so much. I think Bryant could be one of those people that we could really work with here in the state of Missouri. I hope so anyway. So I'm going to let this, I want you guys, if you stick around, I'm going to play just a little bit of a song here. I probably won't play it all, but let's see. But I'm going to play the song a little bit as we end the show. I may not play the whole thing, but you can just yeah, you can tell me what you think, or you can just go on about your nightly business. That's cool too. I appreciate you all. But here goes. Make sure it's not too loud.
waking hell and the gods grow tired. Reset my patient violence along both lines of a pathway higher. Grow back your sharpest teeth, you know my desire. I will travel far beyond the path of reason. Take me back to Eden, take me back to Eden. Well, yeah, I spit blood when I wake up. Sink porcelain stain, choking up brain matter and makeup. Just 2 days since the mainframe went down and I'm still messed up. Room feels like a meat freezer, I dangling like cold cuts. Missed calls, answer phones from people I just don't trust. Mirror talk, fake love, but I'll take a pound of your flesh before you take a piece of my pay stub. White roses, black doves, godmother, rise up. I need you to see me for what I have become. My mind, those eyes like fire. I'm a winged insect, you're a funeral pyre. Come now, bite through these wires. I'm a waking hell and the gods grow tired. Reset my patient violence along both lines of a pathway higher. Grow back your sharpest teeth, you know my desire. I guess it goes to show, does it not, that we've no idea what we've got until we lose it. And no amount of love will keep it around if we don't choose it. And I don't
like I said, they kick through with 14 different styles of music in their songs. Like I know I played that one a few weeks ago, Sleep Token. It's the same way. It just bounces all over the place, and you're just like, holy crap. But I don't, something about it, it's, I don't know, it's so different that it's pleasing to the ears, I guess you could say. I just absolutely love it. It's just one of those songs, it's one of those bands that, kind of, it's like an emotional roller coaster. It just kind of goes up and down, swings all over the place. Yeah. I know a lot of people don't like the screamo type of stuff, but for whatever reason, it doesn't matter if I'm having like a really great day or if I'm having an awful day and I'm really ticked off at the end of the day at work. It evens me out, man. It sits me. It just soothes me. I don't know what it is, and it again, if I'm doing photo editing, or if I remember my AirPods and I go out taking photos, if somebody would come along and pull one of my earbuds out and go, what are you listening to? They're probably thinking I'm listening to like classical music, and they hear Amon Amarth, some Viking metal, and they're like, well, clearly this isn't what I thought it was. I will play you I won't keep you guys much longer. But if I was out taking pictures today, which what I listened to on the way to the Shaw Nature Reserve outside of Gray Summit, I won't play much of this. If I didn't remember my earbuds, but if my earbuds were in, this is what you would have heard. So that song is called I Have No Pity by Devil Driver, right? I absolutely love it. Love it. And this is my song for sicko child traffickers and the like, because there are some lyrics in here that I absolutely love. Okay? So it says, you've come out of bounds. Get the F out of here. I have no pity. I'll hunt you down with the hounds. I have no pity. Hear the hooves. Smell the liars. Amongst themselves they conspire. Stretch their necks with barbed wire. Give cause to never see spire. Lay down the law. You're better left forgotten. Lay low. I'll leave you to rot then. Because there's where is it at? There's another part of the lyrics here that says, I'll shackle your hands and spit in your face. I'll sit and dine as you beg. You've come out of bounds. I think that's a perfect song for sicko pedos and these elitists around the world who are just some sick, evil individuals. But anyway, I need to get off here, edit my audio so I can get it uploaded to Spreaker and Sam and Trish's server. But thanks again, guys, taking a little musical ride with me. Again, I know Casey and I have very, very, similar tastes in music. He and I see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. And it's nice when you can find other metalheads because it makes me sad because when you see these metal groups go to Europe, the crowds are enormous. And then I go to shows around here. I'm like, where the heck's everybody at? Where's all the metalheads at? It's like they're all gone into hiding. But yeah, it's always nice when you know a fellow metalhead that you can discuss different groups and everything like that. But anyway, folks, that'll do it for this evening. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope to see you back here next week with Sam and Trish. Peace, everybody, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you all again real soon, all right? Take care. Good night. Love you all.